Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. The studio lights burned hot, a false sun against the cool blue set. On the screen, a slick graphic for a new government initiative on youth services glowed. The presenter, Alastair, leaned forward, his expression a practiced blend of skepticism and courtesy, aimed at his guest, the Minister for Communities, Sarah Chen. Minister, Alastair began, his tone smooth. These are impressive numbers, but our viewers are asking, where does this funding actually coming from? The NHS is on its knees, schools are overcrowded. Is this simply a reallocation, a rebadging of existing, stretched budgets? Minister Chen offered a serene smile, her hands folded neatly on the desk. Alastair, this is entirely new additional investment. We've identified significant efficiencies within the departmental budget, and we are absolutely committed to forging a brighter future for the next generation. This is not about taking from one pot to fill another. In a small terraced house in Leeds, David was stirring his tea, the television muttering in the background. He was a retired accountant, and politics was his guilty pleasure. He watched the minister's calm delivery, his brow furrowing slightly. In a university library in Bristol, Chloe had the broadcast on her laptop, one earbud in as she scrolled through her notes. She paused, her cursor hovering over a PDF about local council funding cuts. Back in the studio, Alastair pressed. With respect, Minister, the Institute for Fiscal Studies seems to contradict that. Their report yesterday stated clearly that your departmental budget shows no such efficiencies or room for new, large-scale investment. They call the figures, and I quote, economically dubious. The minister's smile didn't waver, but it tightened at the edges. The IFSS does valuable work, but they don't have access to our latest unpublished spending reviews. This is new money. I can assure the public of that. On his sofa, David sat up straighter. Unpublished reviews? He muttered to the screen. That's convenient. On her laptop, Chloe's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up the IFS report. She compared its stark conclusions to the minister's placid assurances. A cold knot of disbelief tightened in her stomach. Alastair, sensing blood in the water, changed tack. Let's talk about the Youth Connect centers in the Northeast. You've cited them as a success story. Yet, we've been contacted by staff at 3 of those very centers who say their funding was cut 6 months ago, forcing them to reduce hours and lay off key youth workers. How do you reconcile that? For the first time, a flicker of something, annoyance, panic, crossed Minister Chen's face. It was gone in an instant, replaced by a mask of bland reassurance. There's often a transition period when we move to new, more effective funding models. Some temporary disruption is unavoidable, but the long-term picture is one of growth and support. The camera cut to a wide shot, and the screen was immediately flooded. Not with the usual measured comments, but with a torrent of raw, unfiltered fury from the show's live feed. The words scrolled, a rapid-fire cascade of public anger. They were not the polite, debating society disagreements of pundits. They were the raw, first-hand accounts of people living with the consequences of the policies being so calmly misrepresented. In the library, Flo wasn't typing anymore. She was just staring, a hollow feeling of cynicism settling over her. The disconnect between the polished fiction on screen and the angry reality in the comments was a chasm too wide to ignore. She felt not just disappointed, but a simmering rage at the sheer, brazen audacity of it. Back in the studio, Alastair's co-host, a journalist named Ben, finally spoke, his voice dry. Well, the viewers seem to have a rather strong reaction to that last answer, Minister. Minister Chen's composure finally cracked. The serene smile vanished, replaced by a pinched, defensive expression. It's easy for people to be angry from their armchairs, she said, a sharpness entering her tone. Governing is about making difficult choices. The phrase armchairs acted like gasoline on the fire. The comment feed exploded anew, a blizzard of outrage and indignation. Alastair wrapped the interview shortly after, his voice cool. "Minister Chen, thank you for your time. We'll, of course, continue to follow this story." The segment ended. The screen cut to a breezy advert for a supermarket. But the mood in millions of living rooms had already shifted. The polished surface of the political interview had been shattered, not by a fellow journalist, but by the raw collective voice of the public, screaming in protest at a truth they saw being twisted in plain sight. The airwaves had been cleared, but the anger lingered, a thick, toxic cloud with nowhere to go.